Okay, just a short one on using maths in biology. Basically, percentages we want to look at here. The way to think of percentages is not to think of it in terms of per hundred. I think is a bit of an easier way to do it. If you think of something straightforward first, like if I said what is 50% of 100, now you can do that in your head probably, because you'd say 50% of 100 equals 50. You could work it out. If I said what's 10% of 100, you would say, well, it's 10, and you could probably work it out quite quickly. If I was to say what is 50% of 450, you might be able to do it pretty quickly. You might not. So it's these difficult numbers where we need a shortcut of doing it. How can we work this out? Well, let's just look back at these numbers for a second and mathematically work out what's happening. This is where you might want to try this yourself on calculator to see that it does actually work. 50% of 100 is the same as saying 0.5 times 100. Okay, just to prove it, 0.5 times 100 equals 50. Okay, 10% is the same as saying 0.1 times 100. Again, just to prove it, 0.1 times 100 is 10. So all we're doing is we're taking the percentage here and turning it into a decimal. Okay, so 50% of 450 is the same as saying 0.5 times 450. So let's see if this one works. 0.5 times 450 equals 225. Okay, what about if we have a bit of a more awkward percentage? And what if we said 23% of 450? Well, again, we just convert it to a decimal, except this time we've got 0.23. Okay, if you look back at these ones, of course I could have written that as 0.50. I've just used two decimal places. It's just I haven't bothered to show it here. It's still there. Okay, so 50% is the same as 0.5, 0.1, 0.5. So let's just work it out. Let's see if it does work. So 0.23 times 450 equals 103.5. Now, one of the biggest advantages you'll have if you can do this is before you calculate any of these percentages, just to think in your head roughly what kind of value we're going to get. So again, I'll make something up here. Excuse me. Let's have 58% of 709. No idea what that is, but I'll just go through the process. What I mean by estimating is that number is roughly, well, it's about 60%, isn't it? Roughly 60%. 709, well, let's say that's roughly 700. 50% of 700 would be 350, but I know it's going to be above that, so it's got to be a value that's greater than 350. I could work out what 10% of 700 would be. It would be 70. 10% of 700 is 70. 6 times that, 60%, would be 420. So I already know before I've done my calculation, I'm expecting this value to be between 350 to 420. I would guess it's going to be around a bit close to this, so maybe it's going to be 400 and 405, somewhere around that. So let's try it. So it's going to be, I'll convert that to a decimal, 0.58, 58% times 709, 0.58 times 709, 411.22. So I can tell from that I'm in the right area by estimating it first of all. Now it does also work if we want to do another version of it. So that's working a percent out of a value. What if it was something that said 140 is what percentage of 200, for example? Now you might be able to work that out in your head. You possibly can, but let's see if we can do it mathematically. If we go back to just what we did then, the answer, by the way, is 70%. But let's just work it backwards and see how we could do it. 70% of 200, so let's do the math, 0.7 times 200 equals 140. Yep, it's just what we did before. Now, we're working it the other way this time. I know what the answer is already, but I'm trying to show you how we can get to it. If your algebra's up to it, and you can work with the algebra, one thing you can do here is you could cancel these things out. So I could divide that by 200 and that side by 200. Okay, that cancels out. So 0.7 equals 140 times 200. In other words, if I didn't know what that value is, the maths I would do would be 140 divided by 200, and that would give me my percentage. Okay, of course it would give me it as a decimal, but let's just try one out just randomly. So let's try 137 is what percentage of 220? Why not? Again, let's just do my estimate. It's going to be, well, 50% of 220 is 110, so it's going to be a bit more than that. It's going to be 100 and maybe 20-ish. Sorry, it's going to be maybe about 60%. So let's try it. So there's my formula: 137 divided by 200. Don't show you my passcode. There we go. 137 divided by 200. 0.685, so that's it as a decimal. Of course, if I want it to be as a percentage, all I would have to do is multiply that by 100. So my answer is 137 is 68.5% of 220.